Hi guys, KO here. Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila, where we are working to inspire positive, radical social evolution. I'm so excited today. We are going to be talking about all things economic literacy, why it's so important, why we need to learn it as a young human, and why we can really vote with our dollar. I'm welcoming Ryan Harris. He's on the board of directors for the Economic Literacy of Colorado organization. They are a nonprofit educating educators on how to get literate with your money and know what to do, how to spend it, and understand the system, all the things around it. So this is an incredible conversation. Ryan is a Super Bowl champion, a winner in life, a best-selling author, you name it, he's done it. He's out there to change the world positively, and we have a phenomenal conversation about all of it. A little football, a little money, a lot of laughs. Enjoy this one. Get your money right, get your voting right, get your awareness right. This is a good cast for everybody out there wanting to make a change and let go of that financial stress. We're out here for you. Be sure to check out our conversation on YouTube, where you can see the full video, and download and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I am excited today. We have a friend of a friend, which if you listen to Turmeric and Tequila, these are my most favorite connections. So I have to start the conversation with a thank you to Bill Tortorici, fitness fam, fellow CrossFitter. He's been throwing good things my way and supporting the Turmeric and Tequila show. So we got to give him some love, but we are going to talk about economic literacy today. And I'm welcoming the Ryan Harris to the Turmeric and Tequila mic. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, KO. Appreciate it.
Yes, I'm super pumped. We're already talking about some Denver situation in real estate, so we're going to keep Colorado in the mix today. I want to give a little background on the Economic Literacy of Colorado organization. They are a 501c3 nonprofit out here, and we're going to break down why it's important. And Ryan is on the board of directors, so we're going to talk about his journey and how economic literacy kind of played a role in his life and why it's so important now. A lot of people, I want to say, don't necessarily know, just as a Colorado native, about this organization. And if you survived 2020 and we're in 2021 now, you know, and have probably known even prior, how important getting your financials correct how important it is, and being ready for pandemics, injury, health, family. The world is a turning and we need to have our business right. So I'm really excited about this conversation. And I've spoken in the past about disrupting in a positive way our current curriculums in high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, and getting our kiddos privy to this conversation. So it's more about prevention than it is cleaning up a problem later on. So here's the quick 411 on economic literacy of Colorado. The EconLitCo's mission is to equip students with the fundamental skills to effectively participate as responsible and productive members of our free enterprise system by educating their teachers in economics and personal finance literacy. They do this through a host of different accredited programs. They get into K through 12 schools. They actually have a program for students called the Stock Market Experience. We can go on, and it's a real-time investment simulation program. So they're out there really educating the educators and, you know, trying to, like I said, disrupt the system and kind of educate before we have something that we need to fix down the road. Just some quick stats for all my number humans. They have over just about 1,400 teachers attended EconLitCo programs last year. 391 teachers attended for the first time. 116 school districts reached out of 178. Almost 9,000 instructional hours delivered. Over 72,000 students impacted. So this is, you guys are out here doing the work.
Yeah, I mean, you know, money matters, right? And you talked earlier, if you survived 2020, how about if you survived adulthood? You understand that, right? If you're surviving adulthood, and you know, even myself, you know, my parents were middle class, so my mother is an educator, my dad was a mechanical engineer, and when I made my first million in the NFL, I was dead broke after that, and just like many people, I was looking for who to blame, right? Yeah. And so I then learned about this guy, Warren Buffett, and what he talks about. So I started reading about investment in stocks and how I can own part of the companies that I actually buy all the time. And so I started with $500 in a Scottrade account, learned his name was Warren Buffett, and just started buying stocks that of companies that I used. Apple. I even bought McDonald's and Chipotle stock, right? And for Economic Literacy Colorado, I got connected with them because I've been so huge on financial literacy. I mean, even in 10 years in the NFL, 7 of those years, I would sit down my rookies and have them open up an investment account and just trade themselves, because it drastically changes how you see money the moment you invest, even if it's one share. And Absolutely. You start to realize that wealthy people don't look rich, and the things that wealthy people do are things that you can't see. I mean, the less diamonds and chains I have, the more money I have, right? So the less you see, the more I make. And in particular for me, it's a huge opportunity to teach our kids, hey, no matter what you do, you are going to make money. What does saving money mean? It means saving $60 out of every $100 you make. What does it, what kinds of things do you say no to? New cars are only new for a few months. New shoes are only new for a few days, right? And so to be able to talk money with students as well as with teachers. I mean, I've spoken to the teachers as well, KO, and they say, well, how can I talk about financial literacy when I'm not wealthy? And I'm like, well, you actually do have opportunities to save. You do have opportunities to say no, to look at things differently. I told one teacher, could you get a roommate? Well, I don't want to. Well, okay, now we're talking about comfort, right? I got a young person at my radio station. He's looking to buy a house. And I said, why would you buy a house when you can buy a condo? You're 30, you're unmarried, you don't have kids. He said, well, I just really don't want to deal with a roommate or owning something. And I'm like, well, you might deal with job security later because of your comfort decisions. So It's a great way to reach the students and make an impact in the state of Colorado and talk about money, because everyone's going to touch it. Doesn't matter what color, creed, orientation, or class, but what do you do with it and how can you make it work for you?
So well said. And I love working with my fellow athletes because I think you understand a code of conduct and a level of expectation very early on. It's kind of less that you have to explain as you go. I didn't really get to introduce Ryan, but if you don't know, he's a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl 50. I told him I'm a Denver native. So if you from Colorado, this is Broncos country. I know you play for a couple other teams, but we'll just keep it at the Broncos for today. And you've had some phenomenal success. You're, a keynote speaker. You've published, you're a best-selling author. And a reoccurring theme I see in some of the things you're talking about are changing the world and the mindset. At what point in life did you start to carry over your athletic skills into life skills? And when did that become about economic literacy?
Man, that's a great question. Towards the end of my career, I knew I wanted to do something to make an impact. I realized that I have a way through being multiracial, through living in multiple states across this country, that I have a way to really talk about the values we all share, separate from the issues and beliefs we all have, right? And so for me, it was a matter of, I lived in a world in the NFL and in college where, Peyton Manning never cared what religion I was. Not only did he, not care on 3rd and 12, he didn't care when he invited me to his Hall of Fame celebration, right? And so those kinds of things, I lived in a world where we really don't care about race. We really don't care about, what someone's orientation is or how they see the world or what language they pray in. And I want to continue to build that bridge and open up people's eyes to the possibilities outside of sports. And so speaking is a great way to do that. And, with my book, I talk about, all the failures that I had, but how I worked out of it. There are 1,600 NFL players this year. 53 will call themselves champions. How is that? It comes down to your mindset. So for me, I really wanted to utilize my ability to reframe discussions, to give good examples, unique examples, and make an impact. And to me, financial literacy, money is a great way to do that. Communities with more money are safer, they're higher educated, they have more community involvement, and that can happen anywhere. It doesn't have to happen just in the suburbs or an enclave of a city. That can happen everywhere. And when you have control of your behavior around money and you have knowledge about money, you are empowered in a way that control over mathematics or control over social studies doesn't really do the same thing. And so I found Economic Literacy Colorado to be in line with one of the ways I want to make an impact in the community I live in. And that's where our relationship began.
I love that. On Turmeric and Tequila, we talk a lot about equality and diversity in many different facets. And I love that you pointed out how sports were such a common ground. It can, it's such an equal space when you're showing up for the job. You really don't care about all the other details of your personal. We're showing up to work towards a common goal. And it's an equal space. And I've really tried to utilize my creatives, whether it's art, music, whatever, as that common ground to kind of then establish a connection and then get into heavier conversation around, economic literacy or nutrition. And usually the base layer, unfortunately, I will say, is about money. You see our underserved communities, and that impacts their voice in the community politically, impacts your nutrition, your access to food, your access to phenomenal sporting programs. I mean, it kind of just impacts everything. So I couldn't agree with you more when you say getting to the heart of economic literacy is so critical, because it kind of impacts everything. As Lauryn Hill says, if you can get the money, you can get the power. It's really, I think it is that simple. And it really starts young. What's like the youngest group of individuals you have worked with thus far?
My children. I got 3 kids, 7, 6, and 2. And, one of the first lessons I got in money was from my parents. I got a lot of them. But one day I'm at the grocery store with my dad, and he's putting, the food on, and I put a Snicker bar on there, and he picks it up. He goes, "What's this?" I was like, "Well, I want a Snicker bar." He goes, "Do you have Snicker bar money?" I said, "No, but you do." He puts it back and he grabs a Milky Way. I said, "What are you doing?" "I wanted a Snickers." He said, "Well, I got Milky Way money." So, and I think it's important. I think they say there's a crazy statistic: over 70% of inherited wealth is squandered, right? Because when you don't work for it, you don't earn it, you don't treat it the same way. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure that my kids create their own value, are empowered by themselves and the choices they make. And when it comes to money, I mean, think about it. When you save $50, you don't feel bad, right? When was the last time you felt bad when you saved money, whether it was not going out or splitting the bill? I mean, we feel good when we make these decisions, and you can create these small wins that lead to a huge impact. So I start with my kids who are young, but, the youngest I've talked to are high schoolers, just because they're kind of in that stage of, working with money and things like that. I talked to a ton of athletes. A lot of my former teammates still reach out to me or refer me to people just to talk about money, because I'm not a financial advisor, but I am somebody who makes and touches money. And in that way, a lot of us are alike, and we can hear the different experiences and different ways in which people approach it.
Absolutely. I actually did the Young Ameritown. It's like a little thing at the bakery. They have, as kiddos, you go and you do this like simulated economy system.
Yeah.
We learned how to write a check back in the day, not to fully date myself. So I'm sure there's updated curriculum there. But it was fascinating too, as you said, like pay your bills. You had like rent for your store. You learned how to manage your money and forecast. And it was incredible. But I do think that ability to feel something earned or feel good about it or have some emotional connect to your money is really important. It's like being handed a Super Bowl ring when you didn't play for it. It's just, it's not the same. It's like holding someone else's ring, like totally not the same. And that's a reaching metaphor, but the idea is like teaching our kiddos to understand what it is to earn something and then feel good about it. And I think that carryovers into all other aspects of their life.
Well, and cost, right? Cost versus price is something I talk a lot. When you look at things now, don't look at the price of an item, look at the cost of something, right? The new iPhone is probably around $1,100. That's the price. But the cost of that iPhone, right? The cost of that iPhone is your living expenses, your food, your entertainment, your transportation. Well, if you have, $2,500 in bills from food and eating and cable, well, that's a $3,500 phone you're actually buying. That's the cost of that phone. And so when you can, even with, whether it's with your kids or whether it's with others or even your own life, what's the cost of your life? What monthly do you have to give? And then whatever you want to buy, start putting that number on top of your cost of living. You want those new shoes? Great. Now, those new shoes, are they $50? Or with the $2,500 a month, are they $2,550? And that's a better way to look at what your actual money value is and whether you actually need something or not. So often we buy things that we were living perfectly happy without. And oh, by the way, we haven't found that thing that we can buy to make us, happy on the inside and outside yet. So it's just understanding the game that's being played. And when it comes to money, you got to know the cost versus the price of items. And that's where you can really make a difference in your individual life.
Very well said. I couldn't agree more, and actually started this podcast because I come from marketing and branding, and I saw the lifestyle that was being sold. And I work with a lot: fitness, wellness, human optimization, supplements. I mean, it's a whole other podcast, but you can see the gray area and things. But really, the way this lifestyle is projected to our young humans that are consuming their reality off their phones all the time needs to be disrupted, and people that are questioning a better way need to be highlighted. And I think that's so important that you just said. It's, you got to understand the system that's around you that's telling you need these things, or it's providing some sort of false security, because it's not true, and it's making you broke.
Yeah.
It's a big awareness. Well, so I saw that you were a double major at Notre Dame, and one of those majors was economics. And then you just pointed out you made your first million, and it sounds like you lost it, or it went away. Coming off your, a fabulous degree in a phenomenal university, what sort of literacy did you have to gain around economics post the degree, losing the million, and then having to come to of like, okay, now how do I restructure this?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that they teach you in economics doesn't help you with the behaviors, right? How do you handle, right after I got drafted, hadn't signed a contract or anything, my uncle, who I loved, still to this day, sent me an email, which I didn't even know he had an email, and said, hey, we should buy this $2.4 million property and project and tear down some condos, fix the foundation, and build new condos. I'm like, dude, that's my entire first contract. And you've never done that before. You don't know what you're doing, a degree in economics doesn't teach you what to do when family steals money from you. Doesn't teach you what to do when people feel like they're owed money. I lost a lot of friends because of money. And one of them was because he was an older guy, probably about 10 years older than me. And we would play video games and stuff and hang out as a group of Muslims. And he said, hey, man, I need some help. I need about $10,000 for my divorce and bankruptcy. And I'm like, one, your divorce is not my responsibility. Two, your bankruptcy doesn't tell me that you actually will use these dollars for what they're worth. And three, I'm not responsible at 22 for your mistakes at 32, right? So the behavioral aspect of money is something we're not taught, right? And in that way, we just accept. And a lot of times in life, it's easier to take someone else's explanation as a belief than it is to create your own, right? So to me, I learned economics from a big point of view in college, the economics of poverty, how many people are actually impoverished in our country and what that looks like. Talk about the economics of the drug war. That doesn't tell you about, hey, you've got a check for $15,000. Now what do you do, right? Like you've got cash, and how do you spend it? How do you prolong it? What's the time frame? So a lot of the individual money behaviors that we all share is something that's not covered in any university or any high school in this nation, and something that we can change.
Absolutely. What do you think? It sounds, the program EconLit, I'm going to get this by the end of the night, EconLit of Colorado one day. There's not even tequila involved yet. Maybe that's the problem. We got off the game here. But, they're getting in, it's K through 12, so younger situations. And again, it's really about prevention. I love that. But have a lot of people come to you after they've sort of had the breakdown and then they've had this awakening? So they kind of had to like do the breakthrough to be like, okay, we've got to get literate in economics. Like 100%. Yeah, that's why I figured most of us, myself included, have to learn things the hard way. So I think it does cost you a lot to learn the lesson, but hopefully it saves you long run.
Well, and money's incredibly personal, right? Like even right now, me and you talking, I wouldn't be like, Kristen, hey, do this with your money. You automatically be like, hold on. One, how do you know I'm not doing it? Two, what are you telling me to do with my money, right? Like it's incredibly personal.
Yeah.
But, some of the most meaningful work I've done, people come up to me after every, financial literacy speech when I get brought in to do that. And especially one time with the organization My Brother's Keeper, I'm talking to a group of young men of color, 17 to 19. And I talked to them about everybody has the opportunity to own the stocks of the companies they use. And this young man stood up with tears in his eyes. He said, you mean to tell me that I can own stock? And to him, it was just such this powerful thing that was out of reach that was made real for him. And, those are the kinds of effects you can have when just talking about money, talking about your failures with money. And the unfortunate thing about the NFL, 78% of players are bankrupt 2 years after they're done playing. And it's because of the decisions you make, and it's because of the timeline that you have to make money. And it's tough to retire. I mean, I had a long career and I retired at 32. I was one of 5 players in 10 years that chose their own retirement. And 2 of those other players are Peyton Manning and DeMarcus Ware. Both are going to be in the Hall of Fame. Both Peyton just inducted. So it's extraordinarily tough to talk about money. And it's also tough to hear and listen about money when it's yours, because you have reasons why you're going to go do this. And it's hard to break people out of those patterns and really the patterns that they learned from their family long ago.
Yeah, I think the generational narrative is tough. Does the NFL, I think I've heard about this with the NBA. I know they tend to be more progressive. That might be a subjective statement, but does the NFL provide any sort of economic education in any capacity about finances?
No, and it's on purpose.
Okay.
The NFL does provide great educational opportunities for players, to finish their degrees, to get internships with corporate partners in the NFL. But NFL teams want players broke. Because Kristen, if I'm willing to pay you $3 million, but you're broke, and I offer you $500,000, you have to take that deal. Now I'm laughing on the golf course with my, golf buddies because I just saved $2.5 million because you were broke. Why would I teach you about financial literacy so that when we come to a contract negotiation and I offer you $500,000, you turn it down? Now I'm embarrassed. Now I might not even go play golf, right? And one of the biggest, and twice my financial literacy helped me make the right decision. But one of the biggest decisions was at the end of my career. I went to Pittsburgh Steelers and I told them the number that I believed was market value. They gave me a number that was $1 million under that. And I told them what they later told me. They said, we never heard a player say that. And I said, I'll go home. And the look on their face, KO, of like, oh God, like this player knows their value and knows that we actually can pay that. And so they literally said, give us 5 minutes. Well, in 5 minutes, they found another $1 million. Isn't that amazing? So and that's one of the things I try and illustrate for people. When you make money decisions that enforce your priorities, you gain so much more stability and leverage. I mean, just talk about purchasing a home, right? If you bring more money to the table, you can get a better rate. Right? You go to a bank and if they say, hey, this is our interest rate, say, well, I'm not going to do that with you. This is what the bank across the street is going to give me. What do you say? So now you're a better negotiator. You're a better parent. You're a better person. All these studies tell us about how money worries and money anxiety really lessens our ability to live a life we want. You make your life incredibly better just by being more intelligent and purposeful with your money decisions.
Yeah, I've read a few studies. And I've experienced this personally, and I appreciate your personal share in insight, because I think people always are impacted more when they hear about the personal story. But where we just didn't learn about anything with Young Ameritown, probably learned how to write too many checks, but I also, started 2 businesses on my own and not really knowing what I was doing, but had to learn the hard way. So having any sort of this conversation earlier on would have been amazing for the money, but also for the financial stress. Cause I don't think there's a stress, like you need your health and your wellness, but money stress is a different level. When you're wondering how you're going to put gas in your car, pay your bills, especially if you've got kiddos and, a lot of overhead, that is a different level of stress. And that can impact your health, your marriage, your life. Like it's really, it's a bigger conversation that impacts so many things. So this sort of knowledge and this sort of education is so critical to really embrace and take on. Have you guys, after you visited schools or, implemented some of your programs, have kiddos or teachers come back to you and said, this really changed my life personally. I got out of debt, or I paid off my house, or any success stories?
Hundreds. And that's something that continues to make me grateful for the opportunities to serve. I actually got a call about a month ago from a young kid who I talked to, a group, and they were, kids of color, and we talked about money, and he called me randomly on like a Friday at like 6. He's like, hey, you might not remember me, but you always said to call if I wanted to. And I'm like, yeah, man, what's up? He's like, well, I started, doing what you were talking about with money and saving money. And I think I'm losing some friendships over it. And I just, I don't know what I need to say. I think I just need to say that. And I said, hey, man, don't worry about the friendships you're losing over money, because either your friends are broke or they have enough money that they're getting from somewhere else that you really will never be able to compete. And they're not really your friends if they're mad at you for saving money to create a better life. And he said, hey, thanks a lot, man. And we talked a little bit, and he said, thanks a lot. I was going to go out and hang out and probably do some things that, not in addition to money, weren't good for me, but I'm just going to put in an extra hour at work here, get some overtime, and go home and get a nice burger. I said, hey, that's a great plan. So just making a difference in that way. I've got hundreds of young people that I know that just started investing. And I don't care if it's $10 or $5 or you use an app, just get into the practice of investing in companies that you use every day. If you've got Nike shoes, driving a Ford truck or a Ford car, and going to Starbucks on the way to Target, own those stocks. And it can start as simple as that.
I love that. And there is such like that macro view of understanding the system and being part of it. So you really learn it. You can't really be mad at the NFL for running the business. Is it morally corrupt from my perspective? I think so, but I'm also in business, and I see it all the time in, different arenas, financial bankers. And it's kind of just the way it's the rules of the game, fortunately or unfortunately. Perhaps that'll evolve over time, but you really need to be educated and aware of the system, because that sort of mentality carries over everywhere, and you got to protect what you have going on. And the conversation on money and family and friends, I think, is always difficult. Do you have, like, outside of just, getting your priorities straight and being clear, is there any piece of advice you have, like, for that initial conversation of like, I can no longer be around you, or what's like a good breakup conversation when it comes to family or friends and money?
I think you just be honest, right? You say, hey, listen, we're kind of going on different paths. I'm not feeling supported by in the decisions I'm making. That may be something that you didn't think about, or that may be something that you can't provide, but I got to start making time for myself and surrounding myself with people who support my values. You can blame it on somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Hey, my parents are really upset at how I'm spending money, so I just got to kind of change the way I do things. And you can also just leave it open like that. Hey, just let KO, I know we've been hanging out and hitting the bars, or hanging out and going to sporting events and concerts, but I got some goals that I want to accomplish. So life's going to look a little different for me. I'm not going to be doing as much out, and I look forward to your support or understanding, right? Because now if they don't support you, KO, you keep going to those sporting events, you already know I'm not going to do that. So you stop calling me and things like that. And, that just goes back to life, though. We act like, for some reason we believe we need every friend we've ever made. And the truth is we don't. And when we won the Super Bowl, I heard that song, We Are the Champions, 100 times, right? For the first time, it seemed like. And one of my favorite lines in that is, no time for losers, for we are the champions. And whether you're on your way to win the Super Bowl in the NFL, I had over 200 ticket requests. No, that's a distraction, right? Mm-hmm. If you're on your way to doing something in life, you don't have time for losers. And losers aren't people who need our help. We're not talking about charity and impact projects. We're talking about people who don't celebrate your wins. People who don't support you. People who, when you tell them you want to do something, give you every reason why it's not going to work, and end it by saying, but you should try it though. I don't know, Those are not people you need to be spending your time with. And you talk a lot about energy on your podcast, and those aren't the people who deserve your energy. So know that you don't need every friend, and know that the great friends will be there for you, and maybe you don't need them as friends.
There you go. I actually agree. I think it's a great filtration system, even though it's harsh and it can be a little jagged there, but I think you are who you surround yourself with. That's something I've learned, tried and true, over and over again. So you got to keep yourself around the winners. And if they're not better than you, you should probably get a new group of friends. That's kind of my rule of life. Like, you went to the hardest lacrosse team I could get on, competed at the hardest cross. Little stuff, just so I knew I would level up because I needed to. This is one of your quotes. It is your right to be extraordinary. When we embrace that right, we create positive change in the world. And tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. No matter who you are, where you're from, we all share similar experiences in life. We experience pain, loss, gain, frustration, embarrassment, even success. But you have a right to be extraordinary. And whether somebody's telling you a lie about yourself, hey, you're not good enough, you're not tall enough. In my NFL career, I was told I was too short, too young, too old, too soft boned. I had 10 surgeries, and a strength coach said, Ryan, you got soft bones. That's not a medical term. He was wrong, right? So you have the right to be extraordinary. And so many people and experiences will teach you that you don't, right? You're not going to be extraordinary. And when I first went to college at Notre Dame, I literally got knocked out of my cleats in practice. I was getting beat so bad. But I told myself, I am here because I can play football and I will win this next drill tomorrow. And I focused on it and I knocked that guy back, and the oohs and ahs that were being thrown at me were being now thrown at him the very next day. And so your mindset dictates what you achieve. And I didn't win the Super Bowl the first 8 years I played in the NFL. I'm so glad I tried a ninth. And in life, we often experience something and it's negative and say, well, it's not for me, or it wasn't meant to be, or I'm not a natural at it. Well, no one is, but the greats keep going and they overcome failure and learn something from failure. Can you be grateful in failure? What did failure teach you that you're grateful for? Hopefully a lot of our past relationships have taught us what we actually are grateful for and what we learned. So it is your right to be extraordinary. It is your choice where you do that. And part of that choice where you do that comes from where your mindset is. I mean, you and I both like CrossFit. And if you're going to do the CrossFit pull-ups, you better have your mind right? You're going to go in on a Saturday morning for a Murphy, for a Murph workout, you better have your mind right. There will be failure. Can you overcome it? And the answer is you can. So where will you choose to overcome your failures? And where will you choose to be extraordinary?
So well said. And I emphasizes what you said prior about keeping the right people around you. Surround yourself with greatness and you will become that. It's so critical. I do influencer marketing and people laugh at it, including myself, but it's so real. Like the influence, which shapes our mind, even steadfast humans that are clear in who they are and where they stand. If you're around something long enough, you will become it. And it is all about exposure. I love that you talked about CrossFit there. I don't know if you watched any of the CrossFit games, and I
love the CrossFit games.
Yeah. The Olympics run simultaneously. So I always said, no, I was watching real sports. And keep in mind, I'm a 10-year CrossFitter, so I make fun of us as it is. But I love something that keeps my mindset. Like when I think about CrossFit, I have two brothers in the military. We talk about the hero WODs, and these are usually fallen men and women soldiers defending our country. And so we do a workout in their honor. And every time I start to get tired, I really do think about how their sacrifice was greater than whatever I'm doing. Like this workout's not that hard. Or I'll go and watch Harriet Tubman documentary, or some people that have really done extraordinary things. And just to reset my mind of like, your life's not hard. You got to have some grace and space to heal sometimes, but really we got to stay focused. What influences in your life have you kind of gone back to get your mind and your setting right? Because I know you're intentional and you're clear, but we all need like that reset and that human in our life that gets us back on track.
Yeah. I mean, for me, whether it's parenting, going to give a speech, or anything in life, I use the words I am, I can, I will. I am is the identity statement. I can is the opportunity. I will is the action, right? So I am terrified the night before the Super Bowl that my greatest achievement will be my greatest failure. I can go out there and put my pads on and I can kick somebody's ass, and I will. I am terrified, but I'm also prepared. I am ready. So just having a process really helps me, whatever situation I go through, right? And to your point, talking about the hero WODs and things like that, there are so many experiences in my life where I had to level up, right? I left home by myself to go to college. 30% of people don't leave their hometown in America, right? So I didn't have a choice. Like I had to find that space. When I got to the NFL, I remember thinking, I can't play. They're too fast. They're too big. Everybody's talking fast. I'm hearing things I don't understand, like the word yacht and I took the Lambo to the yacht to cruise to have and I'm like, what's happening here, right?
Not economically literate right there.
Right. No, well, it depends. Yeah, no,
You're right.
But it depends on how much billions you got, right? But it's, I think often we look for someone else to tell us we're extraordinary without really working to do it. And if you haven't felt like you're extraordinary in what you're doing, you've been too comfortable. You haven't tried things. I mean, you've seen KO when people go to CrossFit, they may not be able to do a single box jump. Well, you keep coming up, all of a sudden now you can do 100 box jumps and 100 double unders, right? So yes. There are so many experiences as an athlete where you can't do something until you do it. And that's one of the things I feel bad for a lot of people who don't enter into athletics. You may not ever have that experience. You might not ever have that experience of not being able to, bicep curl 15 pounds and then do it at 30 pounds, and those little wins make a huge difference in our confidence, capability, and future confidence in those situations. But I use I am, I can, I will, any situation I'm in, to create the mindset for what I want to accomplish. And whether I accomplish it or not, I had my mindset right. I brought my effort, right?
100%. Do you have a morning routine?
I wish, 3 kids, 7, 6, and 2. Sometimes our morning is upended, but
yeah.
I do like to take some time away from the phone. I like to not turn on my phone and even look at it. So even if the alarm goes off, I'll kind of mute it. And I just try to enter my day without responding to people, right? Because then our brain is in that response mode. So I love to take a little meditation in the morning, even if it's 5 breaths, but I try and get 5 minutes. I eat a plant-based protein shake with some fiber in it. Get your Metamucil in, MCT oil. And I go out about it every day as an opportunity. And I remind myself every morning that I have a choice in my day and how I respond and where I put my energy and the opportunity to listen to myself too in a day. So I just kind of hit those ground points every morning I can and just try and get myself ready for the opportunities of the day rather than the tasks of the day.
Well said. Do you think that mindset has gotten better over the years, even though you're out of the NFL? And I think the competitiveness transfers just to other things once you get out of like an athletic competitive zone. But do you think you're more dialed in now than you ever have been?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we won the Super Bowl, I learned a lot about how different champions are, right? I mean, I was in the NFL for 9 years, and there were teams where guys didn't care about winning, and it was a shock to me. And I was always, oftentimes I was an outcast because I did care about winning, right? Wow. I didn't care to go out. I cared to win football games, and going out on a Thursday or a Friday night, that didn't help me win. And so if I'm not going out with the guys on a Thursday or Friday night, I'm an outcast. Well, we went to the Super Bowl 50 team, and man, I fit right in. Everybody's coming in early. Everybody only cares about winning. Doesn't matter about tickets and things like that. So I got a lot of confidence in, hey, when you want to lead, when you want to achieve, you're going to look and sound different than a lot of people. And they're not going to like it right away, but they'll be the first ones to celebrate with you, So I learned a lot of that. And so I am confident in dialing in my process to choose how I react to failure, choose how I react to success, and choose where to spend my time.
So my mind's blown a little bit. Perhaps it shouldn't be, but really it was just like business to them. Like you're getting paid to show up and there wasn't a drive about winning.
Kristen, if I paid you $1 million, whether a person listened to your podcast or not, would that change how you do your podcast? You'd say no, but I'm here to tell you, yes, it would. Right. I mean, does everybody in CrossFit actually come to work out and train? No, some people come there looking for an answer, looking for another reason to beat themselves up, right? I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm done. I had to quit this. So, but yeah, it was a shock to me too. And what was a shock to me, I didn't realize that it was winning that a lot of guys didn't care about, because a lot of us just care about money. Mm-hmm. And even in the rookie symposium, the guy asked, he said, would you rather be on a great team and make a little bit of money, or a bad team and make the most money? And I said, man, I'd rather be on a great team. And he said, no, you want to be a bad player, or you want to be a great player on a bad team so you make the most money. Well, now you're getting paid $2 million. Whether you win or lose, you get a $2 million check the next day.
Yeah.
How bad does it hurt that you lost, right? And so a lot of us can get comfortable getting paid for losing. Some of us are getting paid for losing if you're really looking at it. Mm-hmm. And that's an individual decision to commit to something beyond the comfort that money can sometimes bring.
That would kind of be my through line, because as you're saying that, I'm thinking, because it makes sense. It's still a shock to my system to think that you're such an elite individual when you're in the NFL. I mean, you have to have so many things go right: genetics, coaching, timing, health. I mean, you're just like the best of the best. It's an extremely elite group of humans to be around. And to think that like the winning isn't driving you. Perhaps I had to disrupt my own stereotypes around it, but that kind of blows my mind. And actually on a very small level, that's why I haven't monetized the podcast, because this is like the peer disruptor. Like we're just out here to converse and let it be. And if it feeds other things, fabulous. If not, we're just going to keep showing up. But I'm with you when you say, if all of a sudden somebody cuts you $1 million or cuts you a big check, the mindset changes. So I hope everybody can take that little analogy and implement it into their lives. Because I do think there's a lot of people, as you just said, are getting paid to lose, like showing up to a job you hate and you're wasting time and energy that maybe you can have all the money in the world, but you might die tomorrow. Like dying isn't an option. So we're wasting time and energy on things that just don't matter. But that's a mind-blowing statement. Well, tell me a little bit about some of the stuff you're directly involved with the Economic Literacy of Colorado and some of the programs you're hands-on with. I know they're doing a ton, but what are you directly involved with?
Yeah, I mean, I love Economic Literacy Colorado, and if you want to check it out, it's econlitco.com. It's an amazing group. of professionals that want to give back to the community. I've done a couple of the teacher trainings where we talk to the teachers about how to teach money, and one teacher said to me, well, I don't listen to the same music as my kids. How do I find a way to relate? I said, well, you wouldn't accept that in your own classroom. Hey, I really don't, I can't really understand this quadratic formula. How do I relate to it if it doesn't make sense to me? You wouldn't accept that. So I said, just Google, great examples of financial literacy. There are hip hop songs that talk about financial literacy. And I gave them a little hip hop song at the time that was real famous, and they were bobbing their heads to him like, but did you realize in this song, he says this lyric? Boom. Now you could start a class like that. And especially with youth and people, when you talk about money, talk about first that final outcome. I start my speeches with people. I say, who wants to be a millionaire? Raise your hand. Everybody raises their hand. Who owns stock? Raise your hand. Like a quarter of the people will raise your hand. Some people are lying. You really don't want to be a millionaire, right? Because if you did, you would invest, you would save, you would have a roommate, you would sell the things in your closet. How many cars can you drive at the same time? One. How many bikes can you ride at the same time? One. I mean, these are things that if you really did want to be a millionaire, you wouldn't be doing these things. So I love to talk to the teachers, because in that way, then they go out around Colorado through Economic Literacy Colorado. And they do the stock market exchange, and I've done their award programs. And it's so cool to award kids from, 6th grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, high school. We reward kids who had great portfolio production during this time, right? I mean, think about it. You're 12 and you're or 14 and you're in high school, and you join the stock market experience and you decide to buy GameStop stock. Right? Some of the winners this year bought GameStop stock and sold it at the right time. What a valuable lesson, And again, the empowerment. You get kids in high school that then later know, not even about believe, they know that their choices with money makes a difference in their life and what they want to achieve. Man, that's a talented kid on their way up, making different decisions than those in their peer group.
Yes. Yeah. I'm here for our young people. I'm excited. I know millennials get a tough rap, and whatever the generation below that is, as far as like digital technology, everything's instantaneous. But I really do have faith that our young people are in the midst of all that information. They are sourcing the good. I know there's some bad in there, but they're finding a way. They're questioning a better way. They're doing it better than their parents did, and they're dialing it in. So I'm super glad we've got people like you and Bill, and it sounds like other winners in this world on the board of directors for the team and for the humans all involved. And teaching, Bill talked about this, educating the educators, the ripple effect there, where you guys can get that key community influencer and then they can spread the gospel. That's huge.
Yeah. I mean, because it teaches you what questions their kids might have, right? I got an email from a teacher that said, I'm so glad you spoke to us, because the question I had, I put in our lesson plan. They were talking about investing. And she said, I said to my students, you might be thinking, well, how do I start investing? And this is what I thought. And so now right away, they got a connection point, right? Like, I was right there with you in learning how to do this. And here's what I did. That it's different for a leader when you say, go that way versus follow me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so when we teach the teachers, we really get to give teachers tools through Economic Literacy Colorado to let their students follow them into a world that they're going to deal with, no matter what their home situation looks like, no matter what their academic situation looks like. You are going to touch money. How do you want to do it? What do you want your money to do for you? Where do you want to go with your money? And now let's build a plan.
When you guys approach school boards and whatnot, I don't know if it's athletic directors or principals or who you're reaching out to, what point of contact, but are they receptive? Like, is this a new conversation to them? Are they seeking you guys out, or like how?
Everyone wants this.
Good. Okay.
Everyone talks about, and I even talked to some members of the Colorado State Legislature. And somebody said, yeah, Ryan's big on economic literacy. And so, yeah, I work with Economic Literacy Colorado to bring info into the high schools. And the leader of the assembly said, we need that more than ever. I mean, there's no adult in the world who says we do not need financial literacy, right?
I'm glad to hear it.
Yes. Talk about any adult. You're like, hey, do you think we should talk about money a little more and what to do with it? The answer is yes, right? I mean, one of my biggest blog posts that got read was, here are 5 ways NFL players go broke, right? But it's really the 5 ways all of us go broke, right?
Yes.
Spending money on things we don't need, over budgeting, not having a budget, saying yes to family, right? Just giving money away. So there are ways in which you can make a difference, and talking about money brings everyone together, and everybody wants more info about money. How do I make it? How do I save it? What does it look like? And so I've always met with encouragement about what we're doing at Economic Literacy Colorado and beyond.
I'm so glad to hear, because the taboo around money, I totally get it. It's uncomfortable and it's very personal, as you noted, but it really has to go away, because this is important for everything: personal health, state of our nation, state of the world. Like, we got to get talking about this and get it out there, because it's impacting anything and everything across all levels.
And wealthy people don't talk about money because it's uncouth, right?
Right.
Middle-class people may talk about money, but it's usually money they don't have. And, people who are under the poverty line, the only money they know is the money they need to eat, literally, right? So, you just have these three brackets in our country that no one's even talking about these things, right? And how to preserve or save. So that's why I love making an impact by giving tangible financial tools about money that allow people to make choices and empower themselves in their life.
Do you guys now, and as I'm sitting here, I'm like, I need to do this stock market course. And ironically, my dad was an investor growing up and was extraordinarily successful, but I stayed far away from it. I also saw like the ups and the downs of the relationships, because it was like the stock market in the 80s, like whole other podcast. But my connotations weren't necessarily positive, but I wish I would have learned some of this. Do you guys have, I know we talk a lot about youth, but do you have adults coming to the economic literacy of Colorado, kind of getting educated and getting in the mix?
Well, I have a lot of adults that approach me, and one of the things when I speak, I put up my info. I spoke at Google about financial literacy, so even at Google, they have people talking about it. And what I tell people is just simple: own what you buy. You may have had perceived negative experiences, but often those are with people who are over leveraged or trying to make more money than they need, right? Yet 15 years ago, did you hear about a company named Apple, right? Did you know a company named Nike or Target, So just own what you buy. Own the companies that you buy. Look around. Most people have an iPhone or an Android. Well, there's Apple or Google stock right there, right? You go to Whole Foods, great. There's Amazon stock. You like to go to a certain restaurant. I guarantee you, probability is that it's available on in shares as publicly traded companies. So just own what you buy and start by getting started, right? I think a lot of times, whether it's CrossFit, whether it's life, whether it's money, a lot of people don't start because, hey, well, I don't know how it's going to end. Well, when you're in the NFL on 3rd and 7, you don't know you're going to get a first down, right? You better run that play, but you don't know. And so too often we allow not knowing the result to stop us from starting. But when it comes to money, when it comes to investing, just get started and own what you buy.
You got to compete to win. That's what's up. And you better want to win. Get off my team if you're not here to win.
Hey, you ain't on my team.
Jeez. That breaks my heart a little bit, but it shouldn't. Last question. I'm really curious about this, because being in marketing branding, I dig into the companies as much as I can. I love to know the humans behind the cause, and I'm intentional about who I purchase from. Are you intentional about that? Like, do you dig into certain organizations and companies and things that you maybe not even support publicly, but just use on the daily?
I do. I like a lot of the recycling companies that are out there making recycled aluminum for the future. There's as a Muslim, I don't want to invest in a company that, creates the most pork in America or something like that. Right. So I use the Amana growth funds, and that's, a religiously kind of tailored mutual fund. So that's kind of how I've done it. And, there are a million ways to do it. But we are seeing, even in the highest meetings in sports, people care about not only the content, but what's that content adding to, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's, the person who's the CEO of a company, or, do you want to invest in a company that really doesn't have a recycling plan or think that it's important, So to me, I really look forward to the electric vehicle market coming on, more of us owning those, making less of pollution from our cars. And also there's a great, when you see a coffee cup, there's ways to invest, right? You can invest in the coffee being poured into it, the store that pours the coffee, the plastic or recycled cup that's being made. So there's all types of ways to find out, whether you want to invest with companies that align with your values. And typically, if you invest by starting with the companies you use, those are companies that are in line with your values.
Boom. There you go. It's shifting the whole mindset around money on all a 360-degree circle, because you have to see all the angles, understand the system, and then really create that space where you're not pigeonholed into staying a part of the NFL or staying in a bad job or staying in a bad situation. You create your own financial freedom, which in turn creates your life freedom. Ryan, I so appreciate the time and energy. I'm so excited to see where this goes in, 3, 5, 10 years. And don't sleep on our young consumers, because they will dig into all the details you just said. Don't think they don't know the owner's Instagram, where they take their dog to get shampooed.
Right.
They'll find the truth. So I'm excited to see that kind of shift and hold some of our businesses even more accountable as we move on down the road.
We can do that. Where we put our money has been as powerful, from, the Montgomery bus boycotts to, recent events with certain companies and what they choose to endorse. And we have incredible power with our money, first in our individual lives and second in our communities. And whether it's Economic Literacy Colorado, listening to podcasts like yours, continue to expand your mind and look for new ways to be a better individual and community member.
Boom. What do you guys have coming up? Anything on the immediate agenda, fundraisers or events we should know about?
Yeah, we got, it's called Brews and Do's or something like that. It's an event where we're going to be doing some things. So check it out on Economic Literacy Colorado's website, EconLitCo.com. We also have the stock market experience that's going to go on, continued teacher trainings. So those are some fun things that we'll continue to do. And listen, if you just want to support it and you're not in the Colorado area, give $20 to an organization that's making a difference with teachers and youth in our community. And whether it's money or anything else, we value our teachers and we value our youth, and economic literacy really wants to place a value on the monetary decisions that we all make in life and make sure we learn those early and often.
Where do we find you, Ryan?
Check me out, RyanHarris68.com, or I'm on Instagram at RyanHarris_68, at Twitter, Salams_from_68. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm a resource for anyone listening. Reach out anytime.
I love it. Be sure to check out his book, Mindset for Mastery. I really do think the mindset is such an early step one to approach so many of these things. But special shout out to Bill and Economic Literacy of Colorado. I absolutely love what you guys have doing. And like I said, I can't wait to see how you continue to move the ship forward and all the great things that are in motion. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to Bill, and good luck at your next CrossFit workout. Go get it. Thank you. You as well. Which gym do you go to? I have to ask. There's a CrossFit, Bighorn CrossFit up here that I go to ever since the COVID broke down. Haven't been doing as much, but I've been doing a lot of the CrossFit YouTubes back. So doing it just at home. And then I'm a big Peloton guy. So Django_68, come get these quads, let's go. You're checking all the boxes. I know CrossFit makes fun of Peloton. Peloton makes fun of CrossFit sports. It's all, you're in all the communities. So this is good. Yeah. Be active. Hey, don't forget yoga. I've been doing yoga for 16 years. And at first in the NFL, they're like, you do what? What is yoga? And I'm like, no, it's yoga. Like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So, hey, do what makes you great. Forget everybody else. There you go. You and Warren Buffett. Yeah, Warren Buffett, man. You'll find out later it's Warren Buffett, but there you go. Maybe it was because of a lineman I saw Warren Buffett. Looked like Buffett. I'm with it. You rebrand it however you want. But I appreciate the time and energy. Let's definitely connect again soon. Hopefully I'll see you and Bill in person at some point, and we'll be at a fundraiser making some positive moves. Thanks, Kristen. And thanks for your time. Absolutely. Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.